18 months have definitely been, I think, challenging for many of us in many different ways. Being a mom of a 9 and just turned 10 and a 12-year-old, homeschooling was interesting. I am not a homeschooling mom. I'm just going to say that right now. If you've seen Cameron Diaz and Bad School Teacher, that's me. So I am not blessed in that area at all. But it's definitely challenging. I'm an owner of 4 companies, and our state shut down. And my companies were things like event companies that run on events. So you can imagine overnight my companies were shut down. So I thought that I knew what persistence was before this happened. I mean, if you go back 2 years, life was good. I always wanted to have a beach home, and guess what? I got it, and I was excited. I was so excited. And I wanted to raise my kids in a beach community, and I moved to this beautiful community, and it was wonderful. I mean, life was good, was really, really good. And then the pandemic, and my businesses of 19 years shut down, every single one of them. And I remember thinking, what do I do now? What do I do now? Because, see, persistence was something I was really good at. You know, nothing ever came easy for me, but, you know, I would go, and I thought I knew what persistence was, and then the pandemic happened, and it was like, I was sitting over in the corner going, what do I do? I'm staring out my window, teary-eyed, going, what now? I was definitely having a pity party for myself. And, you know, as I thought about this, and things started to get worse and worse, the income became zero, right? I was watching hundreds of thousands of dollars go out the door, and I couldn't figure out what to do. And things started to spiral out. I had a really wacky person decide they wanted to sue me. I had zero income, a lawyer I couldn't pay for, a crazy woman sending me letters that I was not sure what to do with. My blood pressure was going up. I was starting to get dizzy and sick. And in fact, it was heart attack level. And there I was, sitting there going, what in the world do I do with this? And so I started to feel like a failure. I mean, I felt like I wasn't a good mom. I felt like I wasn't a good businesswoman. I wasn't providing for my family. What do I do? Which I'm sure many people probably felt like that. But then I had something that changed. I had a mindset change. I realized that what was happening in my life, that failure, wasn't my identity. I actually realized that that failure was just an event happening in that moment in my life. And when I was able to recognize that and realize that I was still a good mom, I was still a good businesswoman, I was still providing for my family, I was able to turn things around. I went from zero income to $50,000 in a month because I changed up my business. I couldn't bring all 4 of them back, but I could bring 1 of them back. And that's what I did. And I started to fight and get creative and innovative and really start to bring back to life what I needed to do for my businesses. Because once I put the failure behind me, I was really unstoppable with what I wanted to do. And I had some revelations that I want to share with you because there were revelations to me that really changed, you know, how I thought as a businesswoman. Because really, you know, I was always the underdog when I went into stuff. When I went into college, I got a scholarship, but I had no club experience. But I fought for a starting position. I fought to win national titles. When I was in college, I was not the smartest kid. I was dyslexic. I was told I should drop out of college, but I pursued on and went and got my doctorate and proved them wrong. When I applied for my first business teaching job, the man doing the hiring told me that, you know, sweetheart, the English is down the hall. Women don't do business. So that was tough, but I went on and started 4 successful businesses anyways. You tell me I couldn't and I shouldn't, and watch me. That was my motto. That was my motto. But at the same time, that really had to come back to me being persistent because it didn't happen overnight. I mean, we had an 18-month-long pandemic, people. I mean, I didn't even want to be stuck in the house with my kids for 3 months, you know, 18 months. That was like a come to Jesus moment right there. So as this was all happening, there was a woman who really inspired me to persist in my moments of feeling like a total failure. And I want to tell you about her. Her name is Alice, and she was a doctor in the 1950s. And this was rare. Very few women were doctors in the 1950s. And even more rare is that she continued to be a doctor after she got married, after she had kids, and after she got divorced. Women just didn't do that in that time frame. And Alice knew to make her mark on this world that she had to pick a really big problem to solve. She really only had one chance at it. So in that time, children were dying from childhood cancer at an alarming rate, and nobody knew why. And she decided, that's the problem I'm going to solve. Now, me, I would be like, how do I lose 5 pounds? She was like, how do I cure cancer? So she had a little bit of a bigger persist there. But as she decided to solve this, she got a small grant, which was also very rare for a woman doctor to get, but enough that she could create surveys, send them out to all the mothers who had lost a child to cancer. And she didn't know, what was happening. Nobody did. So she asked a ton of questions. Everything from where they played to what they ate, anything she could think of. Now, if you guys don't know, I'm a doctor, not a medical doctor, so I can't fix your issues. So don't ask me about those. It gets kind of weird. But I can fix your business issues. As a doctor, I've helped many doctoral students on their studies. And when you're doing a study, you have to gather data, just like Alice was doing. Now, when we gather data, we never expect an answer. It's very rare that you just get here's the answer. You usually get enough data that you can find an assumption or maybe some clues that might lead you in that direction. Well, when these surveys came back, there was a statistical clarity researchers would dream of. Because on every single one of these surveys, every woman who lost a child to cancer had gotten an x-ray when they were pregnant. And there it was, the answer staring right in front of her. I mean, she was so excited. They talked about the Nobel Peace Prize. She was rushing to publish her findings because she thought, pretty soon, my findings will stop childhood cancer from x-rays. I mean, this was amazing. This never happened. But unfortunately, Alice didn't realize that she was up against something even bigger than cancer. She was up against a cultural norm which said that doctors are good and x-rays are good. And I believe that. I believe that when they're used in the right context, they are good. But in this time, she was saying that doctors was promoting something bad and that x-rays were bad. And you know what? They said her findings were invalid. They said that they were invalid because it couldn't be bad for you. Doctors continued to recommend x-rays while women were pregnant. People kept taking them. And Alice had a really, really big fight on her hands for the next 25 years. She researched and published and researched and published. Over and over, a child a week was dying of cancer. The answer was there, and nobody wanted to hear it. Cultural norms are powerful. They dictate the way we behave, how we act as a society, what we believe. But Alice, she couldn't go with that. She couldn't allow children to die needlessly and spent 25 years. I don't know if I could do 25 years. I really have to think about that, but she spent 25 years fighting to change the cultural norm. And all of you ladies know, if you go in for an x-ray, they ask you if you possibly could be pregnant, right? Guys, if they do, talk to me afterwards. That might be weird. So, just kidding. But I like to ask myself, and I want to ask you, could you be an Alice? Could you be an Alice that would persist for 25 years because she believed in something that was so important, something so important that she had to keep going? And as I told you, Alice really motivated me because my mother, I remember when I was young, so Alice's research finally went through in 1975. My mother had told me before I ever knew about Alice, I wanted to get an x-ray when I was pregnant with you, and the doctor told me that I should not safe for the baby. And years later, I heard Alice's story, and I thought, wow, Alice saved me from a childhood cancer, and how many hundreds and thousands of children has she since that happened, since her research went through? She was willing to persist when people weren't. And she inspired me because I was over having a pity party in my corner about my businesses. And here Alice, for 25 years, was fighting just to be validated as a researcher. I mean, it's insane to me, that someone could give such research, but yet no one would listen. And that's what I found is so important. And so I want to talk a little more about persistence, because in order to be successful in life, you have to be persistent. And guess what? We have a choice in everything we do. Don't let anyone ever tell you you don't have a choice. You always have a choice. You have a choice to be successful or not. One of my favorite verses in the Bible says, "No weapon formed against you can stop you." How true is that? I find it so true. Because really, all the barriers I've ever had in my life have been me when it's all said and done. It hasn't been someone else telling me I wasn't good enough or someone not opening the door for me. It was me. I had to go open the door. I had to go prove to myself that I was good enough. I had to go show people. And so if you think about failure, I mean, failure can really sabotage you if you hang on to it. You've got to let it go. Because if you don't, you're just going to find yourself stuck in this horrible loop of failure. And that's what I did for a bit. And that's why I had to let go of that failure, because it will sabotage you over and over. And I really had to look at myself and say, every time a failure happened, what did it cause me to do? It caused me to persist. It caused me to keep pushing. And in our lives, it would be great if there was never failure, right? But would we be good if we didn't fall down when we were walking? We wouldn't be able to walk very well. Or if we didn't learn all those little things that we had to keep doing. And isn't it amazing that a child will just keep going? Why does that stop? Why is it we're so persistent at so young, but then it stops? And that's what we have to change with everything that's going on in our world today. And so you might be thinking, Julie, how do I persist? Because I'm not that great at it, or I don't know, or right now I'm stuck in a failure loop and I can't figure out how to get out of it. I want to give you 3 different things that you can use that helped me to persist. And the first one is choice, as we talked about. You always have a choice. When I look back, and I'm sure I want you guys to kind of think back a little bit about things that you thought you didn't have a choice in and later you did. Maybe you had an aha moment, but in order to persist, you have to choose first to persist, right? I mean, it's a really simple choice. Either I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it. So you have that choice to persist. And don't let anyone ever tell you you don't have a choice. I've had lots of people tell me that I shouldn't and I couldn't and I'm too young, I'm a woman, I'm a whatever, you can't do it. That's all baloney, because I just made a choice that I wanted it and I had to go after it. So the first thing is that you have to make a choice. The next thing is you have to have courage. Courage is tough. When I was in college, my professor told me I was not smart enough to be in school and I should drop out. So it took courage to persist. When I went for my first job interview, I was told to go down the hall to the English department because women don't do business. It took courage to fill out the next application. When I was getting my businesses started, I was told that I shouldn't start them, that I would never make it, that things weren't going to work for me. It took courage to start those and push through. So courage is essential in persisting. We can't persist without having courage because there's going to be some things along the way that are just scary or we don't want to do. So courage is the next one. The third one that I want to share with you is conviction. We have to have conviction. I mean, do you really go after anything if you don't have a conviction about it? You have to believe in it. Because I have so much conviction about it, I have to continue to go forward. Because if I don't, I'm not being me. I'm not living who I need to be. And so I need to persist forward. And that is the third one. I want to share with you a video because I think one of the best ways to look at this is in the simplest form. And one of the simplest forms is the caterpillar and the metamorphosis. So you'll see in the background that the butterfly needs to get out of its cocoon. And it can't get out. I can't help the butterfly get out. It has to persist. And there's resistance. We have to have resistance in order to persist and find our success. If I open that up for that butterfly, his wings would not be strong enough to fly, and he would die. But by him persisting and fighting the resistance to get those wings out, and we have to be able to do this. You can't expect persistence without resistance. And if you persist, then you will see success, just like we see on this butterfly that's fighting its way open. How many of you have felt like this butterfly? Has anyone felt like this before? Where you're just fighting to get out, and it's so hard, and then you finally get out and you're like, wow, this is what it feels like. And that's what those butterflies experience. Now you might think, Julie, I'm not good at this. How do I build persistence in my life? As an athlete, I learned a lot of this, working out and fighting for the positions I wanted. But we build persistence through habits. right? So we have to build good habits because good habits will push us in the right direction. Now, I have to share with you another video. Has anyone seen the movie What About Bob? Anyone seen it? I love What About Bob because Bob, he's just near and dear to my heart.
Good. I feel great. I feel wonderful. I feel good. I feel great. I feel wonderful. I feel good. I feel great. I feel wonderful. I feel good.
Now, I love Bob because Bob is paralyzed by everything. If you've ever seen the movie, I mean, Bob is afraid of everything. He has a lot of issues. But Bob truly believes that if he keeps saying it over and over and over, it's going to come true, right? And the same thing with habits. Over and over, it's just going to become natural for us. We're just going to keep moving forward. And in this movie, Bob says, you know, baby step to the bus, baby step to the house, because he knows that if he tries to do it all at once, it's going to be overwhelming. But if he takes little steps, he's going to get there. And that is the same for us with persistence. It is not going to come all overnight, and we're not going to be great at it. But if we keep taking those steps in those directions, just like Bob, baby step here, baby step there, I'm good, I'm beautiful, I'm enough, it's going to happen for us. And I can't help but love Bob. Does anyone else love Bob? I love Bob. And the last couple of comments I want to say is that if you stop feeding something, it will die. So don't let something important die in your life because you're not persisting for it. And the thing I want to share is a song by Kelly Clarkson. It's called Broken and Beautiful. It says, I know I'm Superwoman. I know I'm strong. I know I've got this because I've had it all along. I'm phenomenal. I'm enough. And often we don't persist because we don't believe that. So I hope that all the days you know that you're enough and you continue to persist. Thank you.